Hey guys, today we're going to reverse a string in place using JavaScript. So I've got a function, I called it reverse string in place. I'm going to pass a string as an argument. In this case, we're using the word candy. So let's just return that string just to make sure it works. Cool, that works. Okay. So the first thing I actually want to do is convert this string into an array. So let's do that now. I'll say let array equal string, and then I'll call the split method here. I'll put some quotes, but I will not put a space. I will just leave it like this because I want to separate each individual letter as its own element within the array. Okay, so I'll return that to show you what I mean. Now you can see each individual letter is indeed an element in the array. Okay, and the reason I'm doing that is because in JavaScript, strings are immutable, which basically means I can't change them inside my for loop. And I'm going to want to do that when I swap the letters, as you'll see in a second here. So let's fire up that for loop. I'll make a variable I. I'll set it to 0. As long as I is less than array.length, I want to increment I. And now I am going to make another variable inside the for loop, and I'll call it current. And I'll set it to array at index I. So just to make sure that everything's working, I'm going to console.log current here, and it should be each individual letter in the array as it iterates through the for loop. So let's see what that looks like. Cool, you can see that's working. Okay, so to reverse a string in place, the best route might be to swap the first letter with the last letter, and then the next letter with the next second to last letter, and so on. So let's write that logic out now. So I could say array at index I is going to equal to array at array.length minus 1. So if you're not familiar with programming or you just haven't seen the syntax before, array at index array.length minus 1, this will always target the last element in an array. So I'm pretty much saying, hey, the first element is going to be equal to the last. And now I have to do the reverse of that. So I'll say let the last element equal the first, but I shouldn't make this right here be array at index I because I just set it as this value up here. So I need to actually use that temporary variable current here. Okay. And now let's return the array and see what we're working with here. Okay. So if I return array, okay, so that's not giving us what we want. That's not reversing properly. So let's kind of walk through the steps of what's happening. Okay, so when we start before the for loop iterates once and I is at 0, we have the word candy. It goes through its first iteration and the first and last elements are swapped, so the C and the Y are successfully swapped. That's good. But after that, the algorithm kind of breaks down and it's not giving us what we want. So the reason that's happening is because while array at index I, it'll increment every time and select the correct letter each time as it increments, as I increments. It's always pointing to this array at index array.length minus 1, which is just the last element in the array every time. But we want this last element to decrement as it goes through the word. So how do we do that? Well, the trick to this algorithm is you have to subtract I here. And this will cause that last element in the array to decrement. Because if you think about it, as I grows, it's actually targeting those letters and decrementing that index. And that's the secret there. So let's run this code now. And it's kind of counterintuitive. You might be like, why is it saying candy? Didn't we just do all this logic here? Shouldn't it be reversed? I don't understand why it's saying the initial word we typed in. So if you think about it, when you're reversing elements, you only need to reverse those elements half as many times as there are elements. So we only need to do half as many iterations of the for loop to successfully reverse this string. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to divide the amount of iterations by 2, and I'll say math.floor right here. I'll run that, and now I get candy reversed. Okay? And for aesthetics, I'm going to use the join method here. So we'll see a string. Okay, so that's the string. And that looks good, so let's test out a couple different words. Let's say taco. Okay, that looks good, and let's try one more. Donut. Okay, so that works. So that is how you successfully reverse a string in place using JavaScript. Thanks for watching, guys.